Good morning, folks. Iolair here. Today is Friday, November 27th. Wargaming announced yesterday on the development blog some significant changes to the armor profiles of the Tier 9 and Tier 10 Italian battleships that are currently in testing. This includes the Tech Tree Tier 9 Lepanto, the Premium Tier 9 Marco Polo, and the Tech Tree Tier 10 Cristoforo Colombo. They are all receiving reductions in the armor thickness of several regions of their ships, and in fact, in a couple of cases, some of the bulkhead armor is being removed entirely. So the armor belt thickness is being reduced on all three. The citadel protection, as far as the sloped armor decks and the torpedo bulkhead armors, are also being thinned. And then in the case of the Marco Polo and the Lepanto, they are losing some casemate bulkhead armor as well. So rather than reading through a bunch of dry numbers here, I'll go to port here in a moment and show you the regions that are being changed on the Cristoforo Colombo, so you have a better sense as to what's going on. But what's more interesting to me in some ways is the rationale that Wargaming has provided for these changes. So they say, quote, with their current armor, hitting the citadel of the Marco Polo, Lepanto, and Cristoforo Colombo is very difficult. We want this to remain the feature of mainly German and some French ships. It's also important for us that enemy battleships have the ability to deal heavy damage to the majority of ships of the same type in case they make a mistake and turn broadside. Thus, we made the citadel protection of these Italian battleships approximately on the same level as of the Montana and the Yamato, although I'll have a comment about that here in a moment. To continue here, they say, we'll keep an eye on how these changes will affect the efficiency of these battleships, and we'll recalculate the HP and change the draught of these ships in future test iterations if deemed necessary. And then the last part is the standard disclaimer that everything on the blog is subject to change. So they say here that they're changing the citadel protection to be more on the same level as the Montana and the Yamato. Now, the Yamato has this particular vulnerability, that her cheek that makes her very susceptible to citadel hits. That is not part of this change because the battleships, or the Italian battleships, don't have that cheek element. I think what Wargaming is referring to here is that when the ships are broadside, the Italian battleships, they will have similar citadel protection as to the Montana and Yamato, as far as going through the main belt and through whatever bulkheads they have toward the citadel, as opposed to coming through that cheek that's sort of on the forward athwart ships of the Yamato. So I want to make sure that that was fairly clear, because the Yamato has that bad reputation. Let me go to port here. This is the Cristoforo Colombo. She is... this is her current profile, or current armor profile. She has a 400 millimeter main belt here. This is going to get reduced to 375, and there's going to be similar levels of changes for the other two battleships. So first is going to be, this part is going to get changed. And then the other parts that are going to get changed are these sloped armor decks. So they have straight up turtlebacks. I mean, this is completely, reminiscent of the German battleships. They have these sloped decks. Wargaming hasn't stated that these slope decks are going to go away. They're just going to make these thinner, and make the main belt thinner, so that our AP coming through here will have an easier time getting through these surfaces and overmatching. And then the Citadel torpedo bulkheads, which enter into the Citadel directly, are also being thinned. They didn't say anything about the athwart ships. I don't have either the Marco Polo or the Lepanto here in port with me to show you what some of the casemate armor changes look like as well. But the bottom line is that these areas are going to get changed, and it will make these ships more vulnerable to Citadel hits. So before anybody draws judgment, the best thing to do, and this has been my experience, is to play the ships and get a sense for how this will go. Frankly, the Montana is pretty well protected as far as their citadel. So if the Cristoforo Colombo has similar citadel protection, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it's pretty clear that Wargaming wants to sort of keep this turtleback sort of level of protection that makes the German battleships essentially immune to Citadel hits, at least in close quarters, kind of keep that specialized to the Germans and to some extent also to the upper tier French battleships as well. So that is the update from Wargaming. On the development blog. I hope you found the information here interesting and useful. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I usually get a bunch of comments when we have a bunch of these nerfs before ships are being released. We have to have some faith that Wargaming is trying to make balanced judgments here, although I know people have emotional opinions about whether these are desirable or not, but feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and as always, we hope to see you out there in the virtual seas, and we wish you happy sailing.